Welcome back to the No Jitter News Desk here at Enterprise Connect. Terry Sweeney here, contributing editor for No Jitter. And joining me now is Andy Bird, Vice President of Product Strategy with Concentrix. Andy, thanks for joining us on the No Jitter News Desk.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We've got UCaaS, CCaaS, CPaaS. Customers have tons of choices. There's some overlap, there's some competition, there's obviously also some complementarity. Help us understand this whole comms as a service landscape and just maybe unwork this Venn diagram for us, if you will.
Well, as a service is this great thing, right? I get to move everything from where I managed it on-prem, and I get to move it into the cloud. And we've extended that. So you have software as a service, you've got unified communications as a service, you've got contact center as a service, and the list goes on. I mean, everything has if you go look it up on Google, you'll find a lot of as a service on there, right? So be careful with your searches, right? And that's what's important. And so, but there's this whole value where I get to lift everything that I was currently managing today and move it into the cloud. And so it's become aspirational for a lot of companies. But we still see that 70% of the companies haven't gotten there yet because it is a heavy lift to do. And so, we'll be talking about it today, but I mean, I think we have some ways of making that easier for customers to do that.
Okay, I mean, 70%, that's quite a bit. That's higher than I would have thought. Are the options mutually exclusive? Like if I've got huge call center operations or customer support needs, do I need to standardize around a single XaaS option?
You don't need to standardize, but you do need to have a strategy.
Okay.
You do need to know where you're going and why. So what outcomes am I looking to get? Because some of it is just predictability, some of it is cost savings. So you want to make sure that you understand what you're actually trying to achieve first before you even take the step to go forward to do that. And that's a big deal. Setting that up, it's a design, build, run strategy. It's what we at Concentrix really love to talk about. And that is, what does that look like? How am I going to build it? And then who's going to run it? And what are those outcomes that I expect in a retrospect?
Okay. So you're in regular contact with existing and potential customers all the time. For organizations that don't standardize around a single as a service approach, what are some of the elements that they have in common? What are you noticing there?
So they don't standardize only because they're looking for the wrong things. Instead of that run setup, they're not looking for those outcomes. They're just looking for the immediate cost savings to check a box.
Is that the big driver, the cost savings?
The cost savings tends to be, right?
Sure.
Because now I don't have to employ personnel to manage something in-house in a 19-inch rack at a off-site or on-site, right, in that regard. And so we get to move that. I get quicker deployments. I get to receive software faster. So you get a lot of those primary, secondary, and tertiary benefits.
They probably also get faster approvals from their own purchasing process because they're showing savings, yeah?
Yeah, just like anything else in the cloud that we have, from Netflix on over, you just put in your credit card and you can keep that subscription running. Yeah.
And of course you encourage sharing of passwords as well. So,
absolutely. Share your passwords with everyone. No, definitely not.
As organizations change up their platforms, what do you see as some of the regular challenges that they bump up against during transition to one of these as a service options?
So one is sometimes you get locked in, right? So if you go to an as a service, you could get contractually or feature obligated, and that's what people miss a lot. Is they understand the contractual stuff. They can read 3 years commitment, right, on this as a service, but the features you get locked into. So you get locked into a vendor where you may not be able to pivot later down the road, and that is a big challenge right now that we're seeing. Is you get locked into some of these contracts and you're going, wait, generative AI just came out. What is my vendor going to do with that today? And they don't have an answer yet. And so you end up in a waiting game where you could be actually recouping revenue or deflecting costs.
What do you advise in those situations?
I advise you start to explore alternative options, which is what we're, one of the things I wanted to talk about today. We have developed a product called AnyPass, and what it allows you to do is pivot from one vendor to another very, very quickly, very succinctly, and ingest all the information from the previous vendor, whether on-prem or cloud, and migrate it over. And so we feel that gives that flexibility and democratization so customers have a choice and they don't get vendor lock-in.
How's that different from what else is out there? Is the portability a bit more cumbersome with existing options or competitive options?
Yeah, today I would say it takes about 18 weeks minimum, and we've seen it go all the way to 2 years to migrate from one vendor to the next.
Okay.
And we can do it now in an hour or less.
Wow, impressive. Customers do get very tied to their existing communication platform vendors for these very reasons, because changing is so painful, because it's not seamless, because it takes so long. What possible objections could they have to something like AnyPass?
Yeah, so what they could say is making sure that the feature functionality lines up. So in the translation, when you do that, one vendor might look at data one way and another vendor might look at data a different way. For example, take something like in the call center, average handle time. One vendor looks at average handle time with the after call work. Another vendor may not. And so how do I standardize that, normalize that between the two vendors? We have solved that problem, to be fair. So we've been able to normalize that data between both systems so that when you do the deployment, you get the same experience no matter what. And that is the true democratization that people are looking for, I think, from a customer perspective. And we hear so much fear, uncertainty, and doubt about moving to the cloud, and that's really the problem that we want to alleviate from customers, is making sure that they don't have that fear, uncertainty, and doubt anymore. They can pivot as they need to based upon their business, time, revenue, etc.
Okay, what are some good first questions that potential adopters of AnyPass might want to ask themselves or explore within their own organizations?
What do I need? How do I best want to have the journey for my customer? That's the best question, is what is the best experience my customer could possibly want? And that's what we're looking for, is it in a channel outside of voice? Is it a chat channel? Is it on the web? What does that experience look like, and where are my typical pitfalls? And so we deploy, we work with other vendors and partners that help us understand that journey mapping so that we can actually give them the right content and the right path to follow that's the easiest and brings the biggest CSAT.
So I'd like to return to the AI comment that you made. ChatGPT has exploded. The hype around AI was already pretty loud.
Yeah.
I mean, AI has gone a little nuts. I'm wondering, from your perspective, with the customers you talk to, as they bring AI requirements, and to your point earlier about getting locked into specific features, are we at a point in the marketing or the maturation of the technology? Are customers just asking for this because it's in the wind and I know I need to ask about AI, or are they really looking at this in a thoughtful way that tracks with their requirements?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, because we're all over in the news, right? I think every single customer of any customer that I interact with needs to have a point of view on this. And really the point of view comes down to is, where can I leverage this technology to bring the biggest benefit to my customers? From my perspective, you got to look at automation, you got to look at context, and you got to still remember empathy, right? Because their customers still want empathy involved. So how do I automate it and still include that empathy? And what's really interesting about, we'll talk about ChatGPT, but generative AI as a whole, is the way that it contextualizes all the data and brings that to bear so that you get the most information possible. So you can ask questions that you couldn't ask before. How long should I smoke a brisket for, right? Imagine being able to ask an AI how long I should smoke a brisket for, right? By the way, it's 12 hours. So
good to know.
that's Franklin's recipe in Austin. But the point is there's additive things, but there's a key, and that is, who are you using to help you navigate that technology? Putting on guardrails, because you have to train it effectively. Generative AI can be misinformed, and I'm saying that in a nice way. I could have said it a little bit harsher, but
Sure.
It can give you wrong information. If you train it appropriately, then it will give you the right answer at the right time with the best context.
In just a few words, are customers often using AI and automation interchangeably? Do those mean the same things to customers?
They do.
Okay.
They're using it quite a bit, but their automation goes further than just AI, because sometimes it could be RPA. And so automation is more of the broad term, and AI is a subset of it, in the way I think of it.
Andy, terrific perspective on the as-a-service market. Really appreciate you stopping by the No Jitter news desk and talking to us.
I'm so glad you guys had me. I appreciate it very much. Thanks.
Thanks, Andy. We've been talking with Andy Bird of Concentrix. This has been Terry Sweeney with the No Jitter news desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment here at Enterprise Connect 2023.